Welcome to the Mind for Success podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Lebbing, and I love seeing business professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs have massive success in their businesses. Are you ready to reach a higher level in your business? Are you looking to rise to the top and break through the barriers that are holding you back? If this is you, join us on the Mind for Success podcast. Welcome to the Mind for Success podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Lebbing, and today I am super excited to introduce to you Connor Watts. Connor is with Wealth Builders. He's been there a couple of years. Actually met him on LinkedIn. I love that platform for the way that you're able to meet people. And I was just really intrigued by him because in his profile, he said he was a super connector. And I always love connecting with people who are connectors. I know he's a wealth of knowledge. He's got a really powerful story. And so we're going to share some of his knowledge and his story with you today. And thanks for being on today, Connor.
My pleasure, Kim. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Awesome. Absolutely. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about you and your company. We'll start there and then we'll go into the stories.
Yeah, of course. So here at Wealth Builders, basically what this is, and what we are, is an educational platform about money. And essentially all we're doing is just teaching people the principles of how to build wealth. One, through entrepreneurship. Two, through success principles in terms of the practical things we need to do to be successful, but more importantly, the way we need to think to be successful. And then the third part is, well, how do we actually have money work for us? So I don't always have to keep trading my own time for money my entire life. And I can create more of that financial freedom, more of that financial independence for myself.
Perfect. I love it. I love, and especially the mindset, of course, that part of it, I really resonate with.
It's the most important part.
It really is.
Yep.
It really is. And I love that you know that. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your backstory, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course. So you might be able to hear from my accent, right? And your listeners might be able to tell I didn't actually grow up here in California. I'm in Newport Beach currently. Where I actually grew up was just outside London in England, a place called Kent. And so growing up as a kid, just to put it lightly, I wasn't necessarily a good kid. Let's just go as far as to say that much. Wasn't necessarily doing all the right things, hanging out with the right kinds of people. I was a pretty troubled kid. Like my parents did amazing with what they had, but a little bit dysfunctional. And as a result, I began projecting that stuff outwardly through misbehavior and just doing some of the wrong things, And that was the case pretty much up until the age of about 15. But when I was around the age of 15, there was a couple of different things that happened, which was pretty transformational for me. One of the big things was that I had a teacher. His name is Mr. Ledbetter. I still stay in touch with him to this day. He saw something in me that just really wasn't there at the time. He put a lot of love, a lot of belief into me. And he went well out of his way to help me grow. And if it wasn't for that teacher, Mr. Ledbetter, there is no way I would be sat here or stood here with you today. And so from a pretty early age, about 15, I knew I wanted to pay that forward. I knew I wanted to be that teacher for as many other people as I possibly could be. Another big thing that happened to me around the same sort of time, a friend of mine introduced me to a film called The Secret. And the idea of the film was just something that really resonated with me. I look back at the film now, it's kind of a little bit superficial, like, well, think about a Ferrari and you get a Ferrari. But the idea of you become what you think about really resonated with my soul and with my being. And that's something that's always stuck with me until this day. So around that sort of time, I started asking myself the question, well, if this is the case and I become what I think about, what do I want to become? And I knew two things. I knew that I wanted to be that teacher for as many other people as I possibly could be. And I knew the thing that I wanted to do something I was genuinely passionate about doing, that I really had a love for. And the only thing I could think of at the time was to actually play professional soccer or football. for anyone in Europe or the UK. And so at the age of 15, I make a decision. I'm going to become a professional football player. But the problem was, Kim, I wasn't really that great at playing football at the time. I was like a little bit above average. And so I began telling everyone around me, okay, I'm going to become a professional player. And then everyone around me is kind of lost it a little bit. But it sent me on this journey, on this pursuit of a dream and a goal. And knowing that I wasn't at where I needed to be, I began learning about personal development. I started reading all kinds of books. I started learning about alternate philosophies and mindsets. I started studying successful people throughout history, trying to figure out, well, why do some people succeed and why do some people fail? And what ultimately I learned through this period is it all was right here, the 6 inches between our ears. And I noticed there were certain patterns of thinking between people who are successful and people who are unsuccessful. Long story short, Kim, I didn't make it as a professional football player, but what ended up happening in this period of time was there was a tremendous amount of growth. And the growth part was what really excited me, because I knew that if I could grow in something like this, I could transfer that into almost any area of my life. And it ended up becoming a very natural transition into coaching. And I actually had a very successful career as a coach. I coached for some of the largest football clubs in the world, actually, such as Chelsea Football Club, Liverpool Football Club, and then ultimately that's what brought me here to America, where I got a job working for LA Galaxy. And then one thing's kind of led to the next, and now here we are.
And here you are. So I love your story because the fact that you had that teacher, because it's so important for us really to pay it forward. If we've figured out that road to success and what that is and what it takes, I don't believe we're ever really there. None of us are ever really there. It's always a journey. Yes. So I love that you had that influence at an early age. So it really resonates with me. So I know we talked before with the entrepreneurial journey is one, there's ups and there's downs, there's challenges. And I know you had a current challenge that you've gone through. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that with us?
Yeah. So there's been a number of challenges. My life is, and I don't say this is like a woe is me, because actually far the opposite, but I've had my fair share of challenges, as I think that most people have, right? To different varying degrees. One of the more recent challenges that I experienced in the beginning of this year was my mom, who actually, my mom passed away. My mom was a big driving factor into pretty much everything that I did. And my mom was a powerful woman. She too didn't have necessarily the greatest upbringing, but she cared a lot about other people. And she used to be a care worker. She cared for elderly people with dementia. And, you know, my mom cared a lot about other people, but my mom was never really cared enough for herself to be taught the sort of principles and understanding mindset, understanding about how money works, understanding how any of these things work to give her the quality of life that she deserved. And, you know, going through those experiences and witnessing, my mom got diagnosed with terminal cancer about 4 years ago, and she fought that battle for 4 whole years. She was a warrior. She was an Irish woman. She was a Catholic born in Northern Ireland during the 60s and 70s. And yeah, she's just, the fighting Irish spirit ran strong in her veins, as it did with a lot of the women in my family. You know, one of the biggest things for me, I wanted to be able to go home. I wanted to have enough where I could go home and take care of her and give her the life that she deserved. But unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to do that. I didn't get to that kind of point in my own journey where I was able to do that. But now, looking at that, I look at her story, I look at her journey, and instead of thinking, oh, like, it's very easy. Whenever adversity strikes, you have a choice. You have a choice to either live your life as a victim from that moment, or you can choose to live your life as a hero of your own story and your own journey. And you can choose to look at the negative of everything, or you can choose to find the seed of the positive equivalent within that situation. And I don't care what the situation is. There is a seed of a positive within that somewhere, if you can look. And it might not be visible in the beginning, but just, like, for example, for me, it was a test of resilience. It was a test of my love. It was a test of a number of different things. It gave me a strength of character that maybe other people haven't been able to develop, because maybe they haven't been put through the fire to the same extent as others may have. But now, like, I share my mom's story almost every single day, because my mom was an example of someone who cared a lot, and they did the right things. They tried to do the right things, but they were never able to figure out their own situation in terms of, like, my mom, amazing woman, but she struggled, right? Like a lot of people do. She just made enough money just to keep food on the table and a roof above her head. She never was able to figure out a way to get ahead. And I look at the grand scheme of things in the United States, there's so many people in the exact same position. And I have other people learn from my mom's story. Because another part of this was, like, when my mom passed away, there was really nothing left behind. There was no generational wealth passed on to the family. And, one of the biggest saving graces for my mom was the fact that she lived in Ireland. And in Ireland, the healthcare system is pretty different to the way it works here in America. Because if the same thing happened to her and she lived here in America, not only would there be no generational wealth, there'd be hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical debt that my family would probably be on the hook for. And this is such an avoidable thing. Just by people learning these principles and beginning to apply them, it can be avoided. So the point of why I share this is because there's so many lessons to be learned in and this is the same for any adversity. There's a lesson to be learned, and actually, instead of now I get to live my mom's legacy lives on through me, and by me getting the opportunity to share her story, like, right now, and for your listeners to hear it, for you to be able to hear it, and for others who and maybe there's something they can glean from that. And if I can help one person learn as a result of her story, then her legacy gets to live on.
I love it. I love it. And I know there's more than one person listening. So it's a powerful story. So I'm curious how this plays out in your business because of what you do. How that story fuels you, how you educate your clients and your team. So I know you're building a team. We didn't talk about that, but you've got several areas that you're growing.
Yeah, well, so much of our business is about a crusade, and it's about a mission. Our crusade is no family left behind. Unfortunately, my family was left behind, and I've seen firsthand the kind of impact that that's had on my own family. I experienced it firsthand. So me being able to talk from experience, to talk from a level of conviction, to talk from a level of belief, has been allowed me to influence others, and I've been able to reach others who have had their own struggles in life. And because I was blessed to experience adversity, I was given those blessings in my life, because remember, and I know you know this, Kim, but nothing ever happens to you. It always happens for you.
Yes.
And because I was given those blessings, so in the form of adversity, I've now been able to reach other people who maybe others weren't able to reach, and I've been able to relate to a lot of people. Like, for example, there's a number of individuals we've been able to have some pretty significant success within our model, within our business. Two that come to mind, two powerhouse women who were in similar lines of work as my mom. They were both nurses. One was a travel nurse. One was, she was a nurse for over 40 years living in Hawaii. But because I understood what they've been going through and how they cared for other people, but no one ever really cared enough for them, I was able to connect to them and relate to them in a certain way. And I've been able to support them through their journey, where they were able to maybe still be able to care for people, but in a way where they're caring more for themselves.
Yeah, it's very, very important. So you can see, if you're watching, you can see the passion. If you're if you're listening, I know they can hear it as well, the passion behind your work. So tell us a little bit about you've got 7 locations.
Yes.
Tell us about those and what you're looking to do.
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about the system and the model that we have, it wasn't a model that I've developed myself. I'm not necessarily the type of person who has the skill set or the mindset to be able to develop my whole business system itself. I'm not necessarily like a Ray Kroc who's going to build a whole system for themselves. My skill comes in more in implementation. My skill set from my years of coaching is in leadership. It's in human nature. It's being able to cast a vision, sell a dream to people, and help them along that journey and coach them through that. But by implementing a pretty simple system, like in our business, it's really just learning a simple system. If someone's able to come in and learn a simple system and learn how to run our system, they know how to be successful. It's the reason why within our system, just last year, we paid about $1.2 billion in profits to the field. And we've got over 500 people making more than 7 figures. You know, we've
Amazing.
got just 25 people just in the last year to date so far have crossed over a 7-figure income. I've been able to come into a business, and I'm still relatively young in my journey too, but to have just in the last month be able to make over $30,000, which is what I used to make an entire year. And now it's a case of me being able to teach this to other people, to show them the way to learn a system and how to open their own location, whether it be virtual, because of Zoom these days, a lot of this stuff happens virtually, or they could be in a physical location like the one I'm in right now. So that's kind of the game we're playing right now, is in the game of volume and distribution and expansion. And in terms of the people that we're looking for, well, really what I'm looking for are people who are good people, who are honest people. They don't necessarily need to have the experience in our industry, because we actually teach everything required to be successful in-house from people like myself and learning a simple system. But someone who's good, they're honest, they want to do the right thing by other people. Maybe they want more for their own life. Maybe they're looking for an opportunity. Maybe they're a little bit dissatisfied with what they got going on right now. So those are really the things that I'm looking for. It's maybe more the soft skills and the character of a person. If they align with our core values, that's what's more important to me than it is something on their resume or some kind of experience or a degree or anything like that, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Character goes far with people, character and integrity and all of those things. So I loved hearing all this. I know the people that work with you, whether they're clients or the team that you're building, I'm sure that you are inspiring to them and just a great trainer. So I got to see a behind the scenes on the way to where he's sitting now of his training room, and it just looks really top notch as far as your platform. So okay, so what else would you like to share? Are there any tips or things, insights that you'd like to share with my audience?
Yeah, you know, this was actually a part of the conversation we had before off air, and some of the things that I kind of alluded to already before and within this, but this is just such a big driving factor, because I know there's a lot of people who they want to do more. They want to have success in different areas, and that really depends on how each individual defines success, maybe. But maybe they're looking at starting their own business, or they're looking at pursuing a different career path, or whatever that may be. So many times, what I've noticed is people have a lot of a fear of failure. They have a fear of just the idea of failing. One of the biggest things for me that have really served me is just changing the whole perspective on what failure even is. Because failure isn't a bad thing. It's something that we should actually be excited about. It's something that we should strive towards. We should seek out failure. We should look for opportunities to get outside our comfort zones, to fail over and over and over and over again, but failing forward every time.
Yes.
Failing forward so that you're learning the skill sets, you're learning the hard skills, the soft skills, you're developing the resilience, you're developing the mental toughness to be required to get to that level. You know, and one of my mentors, a gentleman called Ed Milet, he told me something pretty powerful one time, and it's something that's always stuck with me, is that God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And those adversities or the struggles, the reason why people feel like they can't be successful, those things themselves are actually the qualification process. That is the qualification process of how you actually become successful. If it wasn't for those times, it wasn't for you experiencing that or having the adversities or the mess ups or whatever they are, you would never be able to have the skill set, the mental fortitude, the passion, the belief to actually get to where you're destined to become. So my thing for anyone listening would be to just change your perspective on what failure is and seek it out and be excited about failing, because one of the greatest blessings that can be ever put into your life, the same for adversity. And you know, this is a Tony Robbins thing. He says it all the time. I was like, and I said it already here today, is that nothing ever happens to you, it happens for you. And if we can just understand it doesn't matter what it is, it's always happening for you. That'll be one of the greatest blessings that can ever be in your life, having that understanding.
Yes, I 100% agree. And you named off some names that I obviously love, read their books as well. Ed's book, his latest book is great.
Right.
Yeah. And Tony Robbins, what you learn from something is so key. So no matter what the experience, that's something that I, talk a lot to my clients about is, what did you take from it? What did you learn from it? Whatever it is, because that's the key to getting unstuck.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
It really is. Really is.
Yeah. So this has been fabulous. Where would you like for people to go to connect with you?
Yeah, great question. Probably the best place for your listeners to connect with me would either be on either LinkedIn, just by searching my name, or they can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @Connor_Watts.
Okay, so I will make sure that those are in our show notes so that people can just click and find you. Perfect. It's been really a treat to have you on today. It's been so much great information, very inspiring. I know anybody that is listening to this is going to be blessed by it. So thank you, Connor, for being on today.
Thank you for having me, Kim.
Are you ready to break through the barriers that are holding you back and reach a higher level in your business in just 4 hours? Be sure to click the link today and join other high-achieving professionals that have worked with Kimberly Lebbing to accelerate their success.